Eek, Chapter 2378, Rules. Published by Divine Tao Library. Translator, Salavan and Rykov. Translation checker, Pew Pew Lasergun. Editor and proofreader, Leo of Zion Mountain and Dale Ligerkeys. This must be where secluded homes can be rented, right? Yang Kai asked as he stood in front of a large building at the intersection between the outer and inner city. After raising his head and looking around for a while, Yang Kai said goodbye to Ling Yin Chin and walked inside. He was able to find this place quickly thanks to the guidance of Ling Yin Chin and the others. Zhao Yi had originally wanted to accompany him here, but he was politely declined by Yang Kai. As Zhao Yi and the others had just returned from sea after such a long time, they definitely had their own things to deal with. Moreover, he was just renting a secluded home and not anything too troublesome. Yang Kai believed he could handle it himself. Before parting, Zhao Yi gave Yang Kai a communication bead and told him to call anytime if he needed help. There were not many cultivators coming and going from the large hall, but they weren't few either. When Yang Kai arrived, there were already a few people waiting in front of him, all of whom seemed to be here to rent secluded homes. He silently watched the scene from the side and quickly learned of the renting process. An hour later, it was Yang Kai's turn, so he walked straight up, tossed a bag of source crystals onto the table, and said to the cultivator in charge, "I'd like to rent a medium-sized secluded home for 1 year. Outer city or inner city?" The cultivator glanced up at Yang Kai and said indifferently. Yang Kai coldly snorted, "Would I give you this many source crystals if I was renting a home in the outer city? Are you taking me for a fool?" But the person in charge wasn't bothered. He just smirked and picked up the bag of source crystals, weighing it in his hands before putting it away and pointing to the diorama at the side, "Pick for yourself." This diorama looked like a model of the entire Clear Sky City, only scaled down countless times. However, each building was crafted exquisitely. There were two major residential areas, one in the outer city where prices were relatively low, and one in the inner city, where the prices were higher. There were small flags erected outside most of the secluded homes, indicating that they were already rented out. Only a small number of the secluded homes were still vacant. Yang Kai was just looking for a place to settle down and did not really care about the grade of the spirit purifying array installed or the density of world energy inside, so he just swept a gaze at the diorama and pointed to a relatively isolated home. "I'll take this one." The person in charge glanced over, then with a toss, a token flew straight towards Yang Kai. Without even lifting his head, the man explained, "This is the access token. Keep it safe, no subletting, and no replacing the spirit purifying array as you please. There will be no amnesty for those found violating the rules." Yang Kai caught the token and only briefly examined it before putting it away. Then, bringing Lu Xianyun along, he left. An hour later, Yang Kai and Lu Xianyun arrived in front of that secluded home. This secluded home was located in a mountain range within the island where big and small cave mansions were opened right into the mountainside. The environment here was not bad in general. The world energy had always been dense in the solitary void-sealed world, but it was all mixed with an endless stream of disruption force, making it so that cultivators could not absorb it at will and could only set up spirit purifying arrays before they cultivated. Depending on the grade of the spirit purifying array, the efficacy of a cultivator's cultivation also varied greatly. However, in general, cultivators could barely keep their cultivation from deteriorating while cultivating in this damned place even with a peak-grade spirit purifying array. There was simply no way for them to increase it. The spirit purifying array setup within this medium secluded home that Yang Kai rented was naturally a mid-grade spirit purifying array. After entering the secluded home with Lu Xianyun, the two of them looked around and found that the size of the secluded home was decent. There were 3 rooms, an alchemy room, an artifact refining room, and even a living room-like area. Compared to the secluded home that Yang Kai rented in Maplewood City, this place was definitely much better despite the price being about the same. Source crystals are extremely valuable in the solitary void-sealed world though, so the same number represented a whole different value in this place. The source crystals of the same grade were naturally worth much more in the solitary void-sealed world. "Go and pick out a room for yourself, junior sister," Yang Kai said to Lu Xianyun. "What about you?" Lu Xianyun asked. "I'm going to familiarize myself with the environment and find an artifact refining Grandmaster to fix Ling Yin Chin's spirit purifying array." Lu Xianyun said, "Then please be careful, senior brother. I know, if you have nothing to do, you can fortify the seals around the secluded home. We may have to stay here for quite some time. Come back soon," Lu Xianyun said meekly. After saying that, she blushed a little because she suddenly felt that she and Yang Kai were living like husband and wife, and she was worrying about her husband before he left the house. When this thought arose, it instantly caused her cheeks to burn, but when she looked up again, Yang Kai was already long gone. Yang Kai had to take several twists and turns around Clear Sky City and ask many people for directions before he arrived at a certain alley. He looked around with a confused expression on his face while muttering to himself, "I didn't get lost, did I? That artifact refining Grandmaster lives here." When he separated from Zhao Yi and the others, Zhao Yi had given him a communication bead. Then, he had secretly sent Yang Kai a message telling him to go to Inner City to find Grandmaster Sangda if he really wanted to repair the high-grade spirit purifying array for Lingyan Qin. Grandmaster Sangda was the best artifact refiner on Clear Sky Island, and it was said that he had already vaguely touched upon the realm of Emperor artifact refining. At least 80% of the high-grade spirit purifying arrays on this island were refined by him. Since this person could refine high-grade spirit purifying arrays, then he should have no problems repairing one. Zhao Yi also knew how much that high-grade spirit purifying array meant to Lingyan Qin, so he secretly helped Yang Kai, hoping it could be repaired. Yang Kai wasn't very familiar with Clear Sky City, but Grandmaster Sangda had a resounding reputation here, so he only had to casually ask a few people on the streets before he managed to find this place. Yang Kai just couldn't believe that a man who was almost an emperor artifact refiner would actually be living in a rough location like this though. But recalling that some grandmasters like this tended to be eccentric and acted beyond people's expectations, it wasn't that surprising anymore. He walked straight towards the end of the alley and came upon a large door that was wide open. Yang Kai looked inside and found a spacious courtyard that looked empty and spotless. There was a boy dressed in the clothes of a servant who was currently sweeping the floor with a broom. Yang Kai went up to him and cupped his fists. "Greetings, little brother." The boy completely ignored Yang Kai as if he were deaf and just continued sweeping the floor as if there was a magnificent beauty lying there. Yang Kai cleared his throat and asked, "Excuse me, is this Grandmaster Sangda's workshop?" Only then did the boy look up and said with an impatient face, "Since you have already found your way here, why are you still asking?" When he heard him say that, Yang Kai instantly knew he was in the right place. He quickly asked, "Is the Grandmaster available right now? There is an item that I need the Grandmaster's help in repairing. I don't know if." "Where did you come from? Don't you know the rules?" "Rules? What rules?" Yang Kai looked confused. The boy swept his eyes over Yang Kai and sneered, "You found your way here without even finding out about the rules. What an interesting person. You want to see the Grandmaster with that attitude? Maybe in your next life." Yang Kai humbly asked for his advice. "I hope little brother can give me some pointers." The boy looked up at the sky and stood there with his broom in his hand, twirling rapidly between his fingers. "He wants a tip." When he saw his attitude, Yang Kai knew that this boy wasn't new to this. No wonder they say that standing in front of the King of Hell was easy, but dealing with his henchmen was not. This brat really was one of those henchmen. Yang Kai held back his displeasure and took out a cloth bag from his space ring, handing it to him. "Now, you can talk, right?" The boy weighed the bag in his hand and only then did he show a satisfied smile, beckoning Yang Kai over condescendingly. "Grandmaster's time is precious. How would he have so much free time to bother himself with people like you? But the Grandmaster's old heart is kind and he also worries over how difficult life is for people like you, so he specifically allocates some time to help refine artifacts for you lot." Yang Kai's mouth twitched like mad when he heard this. This boy made it sound as if he wasn't trapped on Clear Sky Island like them. Utterly shameless. "Remember this." The boy's face turned serious and he quickly said, "Every month the Grandmaster will only open his door 3 times, so there will be 3 opportunities for him to help refine artifacts for the common man. If you want to ask the Grandmaster for help, then it'll depend on your luck. Of course, in addition to those 3 times, the Grandmaster may make an exception and open his door once more if he's in a good mood. Every time he opens his door, he will only help 10 people, so if you come late, you will have to wait until next time. 3 chances and 10 spots each time." Yang Kai frowned, thinking that this Grandmaster Sangda was really quite arrogant, even setting up so many strange rules. But then, Yang Kai understood why there was nobody here at Grandmaster Sangda's place. It clearly wasn't time for him to open shop yet, or he had already missed it. "You learn quickly. That's exactly how it is." The boy smiled and nodded. "How old are you? How dare you talk to this sir like this?" Yang Kai's face dimmed and he sent a strike at the boy. The boy shrunk his head, but he still failed to dodge it. His cultivation wasn't high, only origin returning realm, so how could he evade Yang Kai's blow? You dare to hit me? The boy took a few steps backwards and shouted with his hands covering his head, his eyes already turning red from fury. That was barely anything. Be careful, if you dare disrespect me again, I'll really hit you. The boy seemed really frightened now. He worked for Grandmaster Sangde, so everyone who came here was always polite to him and nobody dared to offend him in the slightest. It was the first time anyone dared to teach him a lesson, so he was so shocked that he turned his head towards the courtyard, as if expecting Grandmaster Sangde to stand up for him, but there weren't any sounds of movement coming from inside at all. What are you looking at? Barely a beanstalk and you're already acting big. What's going to happen when you grow up? I asked you a question, so answer me honestly. Yang Kai coldly snorted. The boy did not look happy, but he didn't say anything. How many times has the Grandmaster opened his door this month? Yang Kai asked. Twice, the child grumbled. When's the next one? That I do not know. The Grandmaster opens his door randomly. He helps people like you refine artifacts whenever he's in a good mood, so you just have to wait.